Welcome to this explainer. Okay, let's jump right in. Picture a bustling, microscopic city. A city that literally never sleeps, running a highly efficient, perfectly self-contained economy. We're talking, of course, about the fundamental unit of life, the cell. But how does this tiny metropolis actually keep everything running?
You really have to ask yourself, how does a microscopic cell power a city like that? Because every city needs infrastructure to survive, right? It needs power plants, manufacturing hubs, huge storage warehouses, and honestly, even a little bit of flashy marketing to get the attention of outsiders. So today, we are going to take a tour through the incredible biological infrastructure that keeps this cellular economy absolutely booming.
Here is our game plan for today's biological tour. First, we'll visit the cell's powerhouse. Second, the plant's solar farms. Third, we'll look at colorful marketing and warehouses. And finally, we are going to uncover an ancient evolutionary secret. All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the cell's powerhouse. Let's talk energy production. So, our very first stop is the mitochondrion. You've probably heard it called the powerhouse of the cell, and, well, it absolutely earns that title. Mitochondria supply the energy needed for almost all of the cell's activities, and they do this by taking glucose, along with other molecules, and breaking them down to release energy. It's a vital process we call cellular respiration. Now, the architecture of the mitochondrion itself is super clever. It's actually surrounded by two distinct membranes. The outer membrane is pretty straightforward. It's smooth, it's porous, basically acting as a boundary. But contrast that with the inner membrane. Notice how it's folded into all those long, finger-like projections? We call those folds crista, and the whole point of these crista is that they vastly increase the surface area inside the organelle. More surface area means way more physical space for crucial chemical reactions to happen, which is exactly how it pulls off such massive energy production. So what is the actual output of all that energy production? Meet ATP, or adenosine triphosphate. If the cell is an economy, ATP is the cold, hard cash. It acts as the literal energy currency of the cell. All that energy released during cellular respiration, it gets packaged and stored right inside this ATP molecule. So whenever the cell needs to get some work done, it spends ATP. But here's where we hit a really fundamental difference in how this economy operates depending on the organism. We know that animals get their food, their initial energy source, just from their surroundings. They eat. But where do plants get theirs? I mean, plants can't exactly order takeout, right? But they still desperately need to generate ATP. That brings us perfectly to Section 2, the plant's solar farms, focusing on food synthesis. To pull this off, plants use these highly specialized organelles called plastids. The chloroplast is the classic example. Similar to the mitochondrion, it is a double membrane-bound organelle, but its day job is completely different. Inside, you'll see these stacks of disc-shaped structures. Those contain a vital green pigment called chlorophyll. And chlorophyll is literally the star of the show here. It absorbs light energy straight from the sun during photosynthesis to actually synthesize the plant's food. Okay, so once that light energy is captured and photosynthesis does its thing, where does the physical product go? Well, surrounding all those green discs inside the chloroplast is a semi-fluid substance called the stroma. The sugars made during photosynthesis don't just float away into the void. They're deposited and safely stored right there in the stroma, along with starch granules. It's essentially a built-in local storage solution for the solar farm's harvest. Moving right along to Section 3, colorful marketing and warehouses. Let's look at pigments and storage. When we compare these three types of plastids side by side, you really see just how specialized they are. We already talked about chloroplasts. They're green because of chlorophyll, and they handle photosynthesis. But then, check out chromoplasts. In Greek, chroma means color. These guys contain pigments other than chlorophyll, giving us those vibrant yellows, oranges, and reds. Think of them as the plant's colorful marketing department. They create the bright colors of flower petals and fruits specifically to attract pollinators and animals that'll help disperse seeds. Finally, we have leucoplasts down at the bottom. Leukos means white. These plastids don't have any pigments at all. They are completely colorless, functioning purely as bulk storage warehouses for food materials. Let's actually zoom in on those leucoplast storage warehouses for a second. Depending on what the plant's local economy demands, leucoplasts are classified by the specific type of food they stockpile. They might store starch, they might store oils, or they might pack away proteins. A super relatable everyday example of this? Just think of a potato or a taro root. If you looked closely at their cells, you would find they are absolutely jam-packed with leucoplasts, dedicated entirely to storing starch. And finally, we arrive at Section 4, an ancient evolutionary secret. This is where things get wild. We've seen how perfectly these powerhouses and solar farms fit into the modern cell today, but biological infrastructure has a deep history. Scientists started noticing some really suspicious similarities between these specific facilities, both mitochondria and plastids, and certain bacteria. You see, unlike most other parts of the cell, which rely entirely on the main nucleus for their instruction manuals, mitochondria and plastids actually possess their own DNA. They have their own ribosomes too. And because of that, they can manufacture some of their own proteins completely independently of the rest of the cell. Just take a look at the evidence for yourself. If you scan both the mitochondrion and the chloroplast, you can distinctly spot their own little strands of DNA and their own tiny dotted ribosomes floating right inside them. They are fully equipped, self-contained little machines, remarkably separate from the main command center of the larger cell. The sheer magnitude of this is summed up perfectly by this quote straight from our source data. These characteristics suggest that both mitochondria and plastids share an evolutionary history with these single-celled organisms. Think about what that actually means. The scientific evidence points to the fact that the highly specialized power plants and solar farms operating inside our cells right now originally evolved from ancient, free-living bacteria. The cellular economy we totally rely on to exist is the result of an ancient evolutionary partnership with single-celled life. It really changes how you look at the natural world, doesn't it? If our cells' internal power plants were once independent bacteria, you gotta wonder what other ancient secrets are hiding right inside us. So as you go about the rest of your day, burning through your own ATP currency, just remember the incredible microscopic city operating just beneath your skin, powered by ancient evolutionary marvels. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep exploring, and I'll catch you next time.